You don't avoid money tasks because you're lazy. You avoid them because your brain thinks it's protecting you from discomfort. When you see pay off debt, open that statement, or start investing, your system reads that as threat, not progress. So it does what it's always done. It pulls you back toward comfort, toward now. In this video, you'll see how that instinct gets used against you. We'll break down 3 core biases that quietly drain your wealth, how the system is built around them, and the counter moves you can start using today. Let's start with the easiest trap to see and the hardest one to escape. Comfort right now. Present bias is your brain's tendency to overvalue what feels good today and undervalue what helps you years from now. Hyperbolic discounting is the math version of that. The farther away a reward is, the more your brain shrinks its importance. So, save $200 this month to have $40,000 in 20 years feels vague and weak. But order food and relax after a long day feels sharp and real. Your brain isn't trying to sabotage you. It's running code that made sense when the main threats were hunger, cold, and danger. Back then, getting calories now was almost always the right move. The future was uncertain, and survival depended on short-term wins. Money systems flip that logic. Now, most of your biggest gains come from long, boring, delayed rewards. Compound growth, debt freedom, career capital, ownership. But your brain still plays the old game. It still treats future you like a stranger you might never meet. That's why you can know exactly what to do. Build the emergency fund, invest in low-cost broad funds, pay more than the minimum, and still not do it. The cost is now. The reward is later. Your wiring picks comfort, and the system understands this better than you do. Look at how most financial products are set up. Fast sign-up. Instant approval. No payments for 6 months. One-tap checkouts, saved cards, buy now, pay later buttons, sitting closer than the pay in full option. The interface pushes you toward actions that feel painless today and quietly load cost onto your future. The language works the same way. Almost no one sells you something by saying, "This will cost you thousands over the next decade." They say, "Just this much per month," or "Just a few dollars a day." Your attention is pulled to the smallest unit of pain possible. Once your focus is on that tiny monthly number, present bias does the rest. "It's only 20 more a month. I deserve this. I'll cut somewhere else later." You rarely do. Hyperbolic discounting is why that trade feels fine. Your brain discounts future pain so sharply that an extra year of payments barely registers compared to the hit of saying no right now. Think about subscriptions. Each one is only a few dollars. None of them hurt alone, but you've created a conveyor belt of tiny present wins that stack into a heavy fixed cost for future you. So how do you push back without trying to become some cold, perfectly rational robot? First move, you have to drag future you into the present. Vague ideas like retirement or later are too fuzzy. Your brain can't care about a blur. Give that future version of you an age, a life, and concrete numbers. 40-year-old me doesn't panic if income drops. They have 6 months of expenses and no high-interest debt. The clearer that story, the less your brain discounts it. Second move, flip friction. The system makes spending effortless and saving annoying. You need the opposite. Put a 24-hour delay on any non-essential purchase. No same-day buys? If you still want it tomorrow, you can buy it, but that tiny gap lets your thinking brain weigh in. At the same time, make saving and investing the default. Auto-transfer money to savings or investments the day you get paid. That way, the decision isn't, do I save every month? The decision becomes, do I interrupt this? Most months you won't. Third move, change the unit your brain sees. Dollars feel abstract, time doesn't. Instead of, it's just $50, ask, how many hours of work is this? Or, how many days of future freedom am I trading for this? When you see that a new gadget is equal to, say, 8 hours of your life, the comfort hit shifts. You start to feel the future cost now, which is exactly what present bias normally hides from you. Fourth move, shrink the starting line. Your brain hates big, vague tasks. Fix my finances is a perfect procrastination trigger. Replace that with micro tasks that can be done in 10 minutes and still move the needle. Open my banking app and list my recurring subscriptions. Increase my automatic savings by 1%. Pay $10 extra on this high-interest balance. Small moves don't scare your comfort system as much, but they compound. The thing most people miss is that you won't feel like doing this when it matters. You won't wake up one day suddenly loving discomfort. The system banks on that. It assumes you'll always choose the path of least resistance. Your job is to quietly change what least resistance means. Once you start doing that, once money starts moving to future you by default, another bias kicks in. It's the one that keeps you stuck in bad patterns just because they're familiar. And that's where we go next. So you've started nudging money toward future you. Now another part of your wiring wakes up, the part that hates losing. Loss aversion means a loss hurts about twice as much as a gain of the same size feels good. Your brain reacts to losing $100 like a threat and treats gaining $100 like, nice, but whatever. That skewed pain signal made sense when loss could mean hunger or danger. In a modern money system, it quietly distorts your choices. You become too scared in the wrong places and too stubborn in others. Look at how this shows up. You know, holding all your savings in cash while prices rise means you're slowly getting weaker. But watching an investment balance swing down even a little feels like a real loss. The number dropping on your screen hits your nervous system. The invisible loss of buying power doesn't. So you cling to safe cash that's bleeding value, just so you don't have to watch numbers move. That's loss aversion steering you, not strategy. It also keeps you trapped in bad deals. You buy an expensive car on weak terms. Later, when you realize the total cost, selling it or downsizing feels like locking in a mistake. You stay because walking away would make the loss feel official. That's sunk cost thinking, treating past money as if you can still save it. In reality, it's gone either way. The only question that matters is, from this point on, what choice loses less and gains more? Status quo bias then piles on. Once you've made a choice, your brain quietly tags it as the baseline. Anything different feels like risk, even if the math is better. You've been with the same bank for years, paying junk fees. You hate it, but the idea of moving accounts, updating payments, maybe messing something up, that feels like a threat. So you stay. Not because it's good, but because it's known. Now look at how the system leans on this. Companies make joining easy and leaving hard. One-click sign-up, multi-step, are you sure? Paths to cancel, complex fee tables, confusing terms, vague threats about what you'll lose access to if you switch. They don't have to be your best option. They just have to make changing feel scarier than paying. Your fear of loss becomes their retention strategy. Promos do the same thing from the other side. Limited time only. Last chance. Countdown timers. The idea isn't to help you think. It's to make you feel like not acting equals losing out. That fake loss pushes you into contracts, subscriptions, and upgrades you haven't really evaluated. So how do you use this bias without letting it use you? First shift. Redefine what loss is. Staying in a bad deal is a guaranteed loss over time. Leaving it might hurt once, but it stops the bleed. When you feel that "I don't want to lock this in" panic, ask, if I only cared about the next 5 years, what would I choose? Second shift. Decide rules when you're calm, not in the moment. Make simple policies like, if a fee crosses this number per year, I switch. If I haven't used a subscription in 60 days, I cancel. When the line is clear ahead of time, the decision later isn't emotional. You're just following your own rule. Third shift, use clean slate questions. For any recurring cost or asset, ask, if I had the cash in my account right now, would I buy this again on these terms? Forget what you already paid. If the honest answer is no, that's a sign you're being held by sunk costs, not value. Fourth shift, run small experiments instead of giant leaps. Move a slice of savings to a better account first. Try living without a subscription for a month. test a cheaper option alongside your current one. Tiny tests give your loss-averse brain proof that change doesn't equal disaster. And finally, flip loss aversion to your side. Make the idea of future loss feel concrete. If I keep this deal, I'll lose this much every year. Or, if I don't invest anything, future me loses years of freedom. When that picture is vivid, your fear of loss starts protecting you instead of the system. So you've pushed back against comfort now and fear of loss. There's one more trap that cuts through both: crowd comfort. Your brain has a simple rule. If a lot of people are doing something, it probably isn't deadly. For most of human history, that was a good shortcut. Stay with the group, stay alive. In a modern money system, that shortcut turns into herd behavior. You see friends posting gains, feeds filled with "everyone is buying this," news talking about the same asset every hour. Your nervous system doesn't say, "Let me calmly evaluate cash flows and risk." It says, "We're being left behind." That's crowd comfort. When the group gets excited, it feels safer to join in than to sit still, even when the thing they're excited about is complex, fragile, or badly understood. Now, layer narrative bias on top. Your brain loves a clear emotional story way more than it loves data. This is the next big thing. This asset will change everything. This is your shot at freedom. Those are stories. They have heroes, villains, and a simple arc. Boring, well-diversified strategies don't come with those stories. Own a broad slice of productive assets for decades doesn't feel like a plot. So the hype narrative wins your attention. Then comes overconfidence. You catch a trend early once or twice. You bought because someone mentioned it or because you saw a chart going up and it worked. Instead of tagging that as luck in a noisy system, your brain upgrades you. I have a feel for this. You start to believe your own story about your skill. You stop counting the times you almost bought and didn't. You ignore how many people chase heat and quietly lose. The system knows exactly how to push those buttons. Look at how many trading and speculative platforms are designed. Bright colors. Confetti when you execute. Lists of top movers, most popular, what others are buying right now. It's built like a game, not a long-term planning tool. Those design choices are not neutral. They tug on herd instinct and narrative bias at the same time. Everyone's here, everyone's trading, look at all this action. Crowd comfort kicks in. You don't want to be the only one not playing. Headlines do the rest. Crash. Bubble. Once in a lifetime chance. Each extreme word is a little electric shock to your system. When you feel scared or greedy, your thinking narrows. You zoom into this week, this trade, this move. That's when you're easiest to monetize. Volume goes up. Fees, spreads, and taxes quietly eat your long-term returns while you chase short-term feelings. So how do you step out of the crowd without falling into total paralysis? First move. Separate wealth building from entertainment. Create two buckets in your mind. One bucket is your serious long-term money. It goes into broad, understandable, research-backed assets on a set schedule. No hype plays allowed. The second bucket is small, clearly capped, and labeled what it really is. Entertainment. That's where you experiment, speculate, follow a trend. If it goes to zero, your life plan doesn't move. Second move, force a pause between emotion and action. When you feel that "I'm going to miss out" surge, write down a one-sentence thesis. I'm buying this because... If you can't explain in plain language how it creates value, what could break it, and why the current price makes sense, it's not a strategy, it's a story. No clear thesis, no trade. Third move, zoom out your time horizon on purpose. Ask, will I care about this in 5 years? Will this decision still look smart across a full cycle? Herd moves usually focus on the next week or month. Real wealth decisions care about the next decade. Fourth move, check base rates at a simple level. Instead of thinking, "I'm different, I can time this," think, out of all the people trying to trade in and out, how many actually beat a boring, automated plan over many years? You don't need exact numbers. You only need to admit the odds aren't tilted in your favor. Finally, notice what your feeds are doing to your brain. If every scroll spikes your anxiety or greed, that's not staying informed. That's staying triggered. Curate inputs the way you curate investments. Less noise, more signal. The goal isn't to never touch anything new or exciting. The goal is to make sure crowd comfort, hype, and your own overconfidence don't sit in the driver's seat of your financial life. Now that you see the traps, the real move is this. Stop trying to outmuscle your brain and start building a system that makes the right moves easier than the wrong ones. Think of it like rails. If the rails are pointed toward comfort now, fear of change, and crowd hype, that's where you'll keep ending up, no matter how many times you promise yourself to do better. So you're going to quietly relay those rails. Start with where your money lands and where it flows. Instead of having all income drop into one catch-all spending account, split it by default. One account is for today's life, bills, food, fun. Another is for future you, savings, investments, buffers. The moment money comes in, a set percentage routes to that future. You account automatically. You're not deciding every month, should I save? You're deciding once in advance, what percent of my income belongs to future me? Then the system enforces it. Next, automate every boring, high-value behavior that doesn't need your creativity. Automatic transfers to savings. Automatic investments into broad, diversified assets. Automatic extra payments toward the highest interest debt. The less your day-to-day mood can touch these, the better. You want the default path of your money to be aligned with long-term gain. If you want to break that pattern, skip a transfer, pause an investment, you should have to feel that interruption as an active choice, not as the norm. Then build friction around the stuff that plays straight into your biases. Delete saved cards in your browsers and shopping apps. Turn off one-tap checkouts where you can. Keep your main spending account separate from the one that receives income, and move money in batches on a schedule instead of watching a big number drift down all month. Add a 24 or 48-hour rule for anything that isn't a basic need. You see it, you like it, you add it to a list, then you wait. If it still matters after the delay and it fits your plan, fine. If not, your comfort impulse just expired without costing you anything. Now, tie your system to clear, written rules so fear and sunk costs don't hijack you. You already saw how pre-decided rules cut through loss aversion. Put those rules where you can't ignore them. In your Notes app, on a simple one-page money charter, or even next to your desk. Rules like, I cancel any subscription I haven't used in 60 days. I move savings if I can improve my rate above this threshold. I never lock into a deal I don't fully understand just because it's limited time. When the moment comes, you're not being brave. You're just following the script you wrote when you were calmer and clearer. For the hype and herd side, bake your buckets into the system. Open a small, separate account labeled Experiments, or whatever word reminds you it's entertainment money. Cap it. When it's empty, you're done until it refills from your normal income allocation, not from raiding your long-term bucket. At the same time, set your long-term investments to run on a schedule, and don't touch them based on headlines. If you want to react to news, you react inside the tiny experiment bucket, not by tearing up your whole plan. Finally, protect your attention because that's the entry point the system keeps using. Unfollow feeds that constantly trigger urgency and FOMO. Mute notifications from apps that want you to check in and trade. Replace them with a tiny, boring routine. Once a week or once a month, you sit down for 15 minutes, review your accounts, apply your rules, and then walk away. You're not trying to become a different person. You're accepting that your brain hates discomfort, fears loss, and loves crowds, and then you're designing around that. Once your environment, your defaults, and your rules are set up this way, doing the right thing with money stops being a heroic act. It becomes the path of least resistance. Your brain isn't the villain here. It's just playing an old game in a new arena, and the system is happy to profit from that mismatch. As Daniel Kahneman said, people are not accustomed to thinking hard and are often content to trust a plausible judgment that comes quickly to mind. Once you understand present bias, loss aversion, and herd behavior, you stop taking your impulses at face value, and you start seeing the hidden rules underneath every easy financial choice.
See you in the next one.